got picture, we've got sound. So, since it's Tuesday, we've got picture and sound. It must mean it's the Keshe Plasma Reactor group. And welcome everyone. It's Tuesday, July 19th, 2016. My name is Rick Crammond, and once again, we'll have a little show here for a couple of hours or more on things Keshe, related to some of the information from the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. This is called the Keshe Plasma Reactor group because it was started over 3 years ago with the idea in mind of creating a Keshe-based concept reactor. And we've had many concepts and many different reactors that various people have built over the last couple of years. And we continue to do so as we learn more and more and try to push the limits as we know of this technology. So, alright, so I'm wondering what people have tonight. I don't have a lot other than I've picked up some new device here which I can show, which is kind of interesting. I'm always on the lookout at the dollar store for high-tech devices that might be applicable in the world of the Keshe technology. And in this case, it's not very high-tech, actually. I say that jokingly. But in a way it is. It's kind of cool because what it is a fan. You see the fan blades there. I can turn that on. And it's got a nice design, keeps you cool and so on. It's also got this advantage of it's a squirt bottle. Where you have your liquid, in this case liquid plasma, and you have a little squirt thing here, and you squirt it puts out a spray, in this case all over my second monitor. Whoops. But if you throw it at your face, you can feel it's cooling. It's made to cool and so on. I'm thinking, well, you have an atomized spray that, you can see how it goes out into the atmosphere here, and actually, it goes quite a distance as it blows out. It works much better than just a finger trigger. So imagine if you had, in this case, what's called plasma water, or what used to be called, turn this off, Gans water, or other names for the water that's collected that's above the actual Gans. In this case, what's called the CO2 Gans from the Keshe Foundation teachings. And this Gans water has quite miraculous effects, actually. It can, according to many testimonials, help people with everything from skin problems to breathing problems to creating a better atmosphere, literally, for people to elevate their mood. And it's hard to believe this water, this type of structured water, you might call it, might be able to do such a thing. But it goes along with last week's, the week before, I think I showed my idea, this concept device for world peace, the Gans gun, where it shoots, let's see if it's still armed here, there it goes. It shoots the bubbles of the Gans water is mixed in with the bubble solution to produce this plasmatic bubble of Gans that you might be able to, for example, decontaminate a site using bubbles. The bubbles would cover the whole area and decontaminate, take away any would tend to decontaminate both heavy metals or perhaps radioactivity as well. And so that's the Gans gun, which can also help to elevate mood. I mean, just imagine if instead of all the action in the States or other places in the world where people are using guns. And what if the police came out, instead of with real guns, they had bubble guns? And as soon as the bubbles hit the person that they were opposed against, they would break apart, and the gases that the people would inhale would suddenly make them feel good, feel like they had compassion for others and extended out and felt like they didn't want to commit the sin that they were in the middle of committing. And maybe they would just go, I give up, you're right, I was wrong. Or in the case of, the police would also be on the receiving end of this. So whoever was correct in the situation, that's who would prevail with this type of technology, in theory. So anyways, I'll throw that in as a starter. Well, there's different ways. I mean, look at the way you could look at this in terms of, this fan is actually, say, the turbofan from a jet. Instead of chemtrails, we now have plasma water trails, and the population get bombarded with something that actually is beneficial rather than adverse to their health, and makes them feel good rather than makes them feel bad. I mean, yeah, it's a great marketing ploy to make people feel bad by carpet bombing them with, chemtrails, and that way you can supply the solution, which is the main, problem, the main health issue that people complain about is headaches and fatigue. And if you cause those things and you have the solution for it, your various pills, for headaches and aspirin and so on. And if you provide those to people, of course it's great business, but karmically it's not good business. And that's the way things have been done for too long. And there's organizations that are based on that kind of philosophy that aren't going to survive too well in the coming times, in my estimation. And we need something that's puts out something that's beneficial for people, no matter what. Basically, it has to be shown that it is of extreme benefit, and I think that can be shown with this material. It's so simple, so archetypal, and at the same time beneficial that. Even the side effects are beneficial. If it would get into the streams, it might actually help decontaminate the streams. I mean, what could be better in many ways? Of course, this still has to be more tested and so on. I kind of am pushing a few envelopes when I bring up this whole idea, but at the same time, maybe it can be done. Yes, right. I've got one of those here as well. They work quite well, actually. This is I think it's a brand name kind of unit. You can get these on the internet for about $20, $25, something like that. And it has a little dongle that plugs in here. It's got a variable speed on it, and the steam comes out this end, and you put in the beverage of your choice here, actually distilled water, and in case of many people with the Keshe technology, you would use a Gans water, generally a CO2 or zinc-based Gans water, plasma water as it's known as, and you must get, by definition, I think, plasma vapor coming out. It's actually a cold vapor, and it's very nice. I wonder if I've got my plug-in here. I can show it. Yes, I heard about that. I thought that was quite incredible. Let's see if I can get this. I'll just aim this down a bit here. See if I can get this to work. I think I got the wrong dongle. Hello? Well, I don't know, something went spark when this plugged in. Maybe it's not working. This one's not working. I think it's the wrong dongle. I think this is the one for the plasma ball. So, let me have a look here. Can't pull the one out of the modem. That's not a good idea, Rick. Whoops! No, I can't find it here. Maybe I have the one for the plasma ball plugged into the wrong socket. Perhaps. Let's try that. Well, strangely enough, I'm not getting any action on my little nebulizer. Well, it was working last week, but decided not to this week, so that's what happens with things from the dollar store. I think it got flooded, actually. I might have to bring out the magic hammer and give it a tap. That's right. Here's my magic hammer. Let's see if it works. Hello? Hello? Well, generally the magic hammer blows do work, but in this case, I think she's dead in the water, so to speak. Yeah, but normally these do put out a nice cool vapor. It's a different vapor than steam. Oh yeah, there's some kind of juices coming out that is not good. Dark looking juices coming out of this unit. Oh well. So the idea is good though, in terms of a cool vapor rather than steam. And I've played around with just putting some inside of like a test tube. And I had two test tubes, and I put steam in one, and I put this cold vapor in the other one. And the cold vapor tended to coalesce differently on the sides, a finer kind of steam compared to the droplets of the actual hot steam. And it stayed there for a very long time. I thought that was interesting, that perhaps, and also I trapped some in a tube, some of the steam from this unit, and it stayed in the tube for quite a long time, as compared to steam, which would tend to cool. As it cools, it really condenses out, in big droplets on the sides and so on quite rapidly. Steam doesn't tend to hang around in a room temperature environment, but this other cold vapor does. So I thought that might be useful somehow for us in our experiments, to create an atmosphere, like you could actually have this, if you had big units like this, you could create this plasma vapor in an entire room, or inside of a large chamber, or a small reactor, or any environment you want to. And it's not like a steam room, which is full of steam, which is by definition quite hot. This would be like it'd actually probably be a cooling vapor rather than a warming vapor. So maybe it would be a way of air conditioning with Gans. Okay. I hope you're talking about these toys, yes. Okay, the fan. Yes, this. Mm-hmm. Around, no, it's air, or, okay, yeah. Yeah. Uh, right around the entire frame, that's right. It's a good place for a ring there, definitely. Yep. There's two AA batteries that go in here. They're like sitting in there. Yeah, yeah. And they could be rechargeable batteries as well and have a feedback system into them. Also, this, take a look at this little sphere thing here. It actually is, just looking at it, it's hollow. It's a hollow little ball right in the middle, and it's even hollow on the, I mean, it's sealed on the back and the front, and it's like a little globe with a tube in the very center that apparently the screw goes into or something. I'm not sure how it all comes apart yet. I will find out. But it seems like it's pre-made to put Gans in or vacuum it out as a vacuum center. All kinds of possibilities here. You can put a coil that rotates, yep, or a tiny wee one inside. Yes, unfortunately, yes, I remember Lawrenceville. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. A polka too. Magic bubble machine. Bubbles. I was wondering what would happen if I put bubble stuff inside of this. It would probably make good bubbles to squirt them out at the same time as blowing them around. Yes, you can if you can try. Uh huh. Oh no, I didn't have my sound flower on. And the camera is what? Oh, I see. Yes, it wasn't even supposed to be on that camera. I got it. Holy cow. Alright. Well, we have to go to screen. Thank you for that. That's kind of strange. That's the first time that's ever happened. But it's this the live stream's got a new, it's been updated lately, so everything's a little different than it used to be in life. Okay, well kind of works. Yeah. Absolutely, yes, please. Stop me from my madness.
What you're looking to do is to get a size that's a little bit just slightly bigger than the 14 gauge wire itself. We initially used the 16th inch drill bit that was basically the same size as the 14 gauge wire, and what we had problems with the cutting of the wire itself. In other words, it wouldn't go through the hole very well. We went to a 5/64 drill bit, and that was a little bit too big. So about 1.7 is the ideal size, if they can get that. And then there's another little hole, if you can see my mouse, right here. So you stick the wire in there, and it's actually very close to the pin. And you wind it around about 5 times, and you get this arrangement where you can, let me see if I can scoot up to some oops, wrong way, sorry. The coils themselves. So what we do over at Keshe Manufacturing Arizona is we all of our coils, we build them with these arrangements. You see that they're already hooked up and connected. The connections are relatively tight. We try not to bend the wires, the flow. In other words, the flow of the plasma field is like the flow of the river. So we try to keep it straight, no 90-degree turns or bends. And then what we found, and this is helpful for everybody, I don't know if the 2 areas where people have a lot of problems with the coils are the connections, if they don't have a good tight connection, and the nano coating. So on the nano coating, what we're doing out in Arizona now is we're using, there was somebody on the golden age of Gans came up with this method for nano coating where you use, I think it's 40 milliliters of potassium hydroxide, 10 milliliters of sodium hydroxide, and then 100 milliliters of water. And then you dip these coils in there for about 10 minutes. And then you pull it out, and then you let it sit overnight and dry out. And the next day you get perfect nano coating. And what we do to make sure that we have perfect nano coating is we put our meters on there. And we want to get zero resistance.
No, actually you want infinite, you want the highest resistance possible.
Or 0 ohms. So let's put
no, if you have 0 ohms, you've got a dead short. You've got an electrical pathway.
No. It's our understanding that what we're trying to get to is 0 ohms on our nano coating.
You want
Huh?
Yeah, it should be very, very high resistance. Yeah, and
okay.
Yeah, it depends on the meter. Some meters, they'll start at 0 and they'll just stay at 0. Some will have a 1 on the left-hand side. Some of the, it should, what you're looking for ideally is if you get the same reading as if your probes aren't even connected to anything.
Right.
Okay, which is infinite resistance or thereabouts. as
Yeah.
high as you can possibly get it. Another thing I'm noticing on this, perhaps I'm incorrect in this thinking, but when I'm looking at the flow of the plasma energy through these coils and into the connections, would it not be more efficient to have the coil section of the connection on the area where the plasma is coming into? So the plasma comes in, goes around the coil, creates a toroid of that coil. The pin that's going to be collecting that is going to be down the center at that very, very high concentration of plasma energy down the center of that toroid. Does that not make more sense to you?
You're talking right here,
Yes.
my mouse.
Yeah. So as on it would come it would come to the inner part of the inside coil, go around the coils where it comes out of the wire that goes around the inside of the inner coil. The end of that wire would have the spiral on it, so that as the plasma enters into that system in the flow direction, it would go into the coil and then transfer to the pin that's going through the center of the coil. That seems to me to be the more efficient way to do this, in that, as I described, when the plasma runs through that coil, it's going to create a toroid field where down the center of that coil is going to be, an incredibly high power plasma, rather than having just the pin where you've got kind of a field around it trying to be picked up by this coil. Perhaps I'm thinking about this wrong, but it seems that's the direction you want to go, is you want the plasma to come into the coil and then be transferred to the pin to continue on its path.
So I lost you a little bit. You're saying this here, we're going to put.
Let me hang on. Let me do an annotate, and I'm looking at that connection right there. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if the plasma flow, I need a line. If the plasma flow is going in, come on. Why won't you move now? I pushed a button and my mouse seizes up. There we go. If the plasma flow is going in that direction,
yes,
then that wire should have the coil on it, because it's the plasma flow is going to go into the coil and create a field, a toroid shaped field around that coil, where down the center of the coil is going to be extremely high power plasma. So you're going to have a more efficient transfer into the pin that's running through the center, rather than having the plasma run through the pin, creating kind of a weak, even field around being picked up by the coil.
Okay, so what in our case, once we made the connections, we then nano coat it, so that whole space that you just circled is all nano coated. So it's like the pin going through is nano coated. These coils are nano coated, so it's like this field is able to be transferred.
Yes. Yes, and that way you eliminate any damage to the coils, to your nano coating when you do your assembly. And Dave down in Peru is doing almost exactly the same thing, except for his connection coils are separate pieces.
Okay.
And he's already done he's tested 2 units, and they work really, really good doing that.
Yeah, let me take you to this.
Nice building.
It is.
You nano coat it after the assembly, and what he's doing is he's dipping it for about 10 minutes and then letting it dry. That's sort of a combo hot-cold method. Dave is doing much the same thing. He'll dip it, and then he'll put his nano coating materials into a plastic bag with a little bit of dry caustic in the bottom, a little extra water, and then go set it in the sun. And his coating is coming out absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, so it's a much easier process than the steam coating, cooking, and all the vapor coating. So this isn't the one that let me go farther up.
Yeah, one word of caution I've noticed with the production units with those capacitor holders, be very, very careful that they don't pull your center pin off center, because we've had a number of units where the center pin is off center and they short out and cause problems. So either make your paper longer so that if it does get pulled off center, it doesn't matter, or be very careful with the design of those that they hold the pin exactly in the center of your coils.
Yeah, we've run up against that too. We make it longer. I'm not showing the nano coated ones here.
Right.
But
so you're making your paper longer so it hangs out the ends, right?
Exactly, both ends.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that'll solve a whole bunch of problems.
But again, so this is a setup of four. It's not a clear picture, but you can get an idea. This is a setup of four capacitors. Again, what we do is we use these connections. So this whole thing is kind of one setup, not a lot of twisted wires going every which direction.
Yep.
And we found it to be a very clean process if you can make that tool to make your connections. And
Right.
I saw a lot, even Farad, who had showed his workshop down in Germany. If he looked at this connection thing, I know he started it, but these wires need to be tight going in there. You can't have them be loose. They need to be tight, but not so tight that you can't get them in and out
Right.
easy enough.
Yep. Yeah, you're using basically the same sort of setup that Dave is doing down in Peru. It looks though that his setup is a little more efficient as far as the manufacturing process goes. I'd like to get you two together in a room, and so you can discuss what you're both doing, because you're basically on the same page. It's just it looks like your process is going to be a little bit more man hours to produce, and you may find that the way Dave is doing it, if you could adopt some of his methods, you could save a few minutes per assembly.
Yeah, the capacitors take us a little while to build.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. Well, what we do then is we take this whole assembly, plastic and all, and we dip it in our nano coating process.
Yeah.
And the next day we check it out, and if everything's good, we run with it.
Yeah, it's basically the same sort of thing that Dave's doing down in Peru. He doesn't have the fancy plastic. He's making his with wooden frames, local source materials, and he's found that he makes the frame first, and that gives him all the sizes and distances and lengths he needs. He can make the entire assembly, coils and capacitors, as one unit, and the pins of the capacitors is a second unit. He nano coats them separately, assembles them, slides the capacitors together, and it's done. It's an amazingly efficient way to do the.
Yeah, maybe he's come farther along than last video I saw of him.
Yeah, he has. This is pretty much new. We just came up with this about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago. And like I said, he's done 2 tests already. One's in Hawaii running happily, and the other one is in the shop running happily. So we know this is going to work really nice, and it looks really pretty. Like if you look at his system, they're very, very pretty systems. There might be a picture on xi4.com, Rick, if you want to.
xi4.com.
Yeah. Okay. XI and then number 4.com. And I'd get Dave in here, but it's 1 o'clock in the morning in Peru right now, so he's.
I had a lot of problems with the time zone.
Yeah.
So
let me see if this is the picture.
I know you can show the whole page, Dave, or Rick. I know Dave won't mind at all.
Okay, just a second here. There we go.
And besides, I've got his password, so he can't really complain.
All right. And get this out of the way and get this up. Have to show it a bit bigger. Okay, do a screen share. And there we go. So this is the website, XI4. Strange.
Yep, that's the right site. Yep, and it's half of it's in Spanish because he is coming out of Peru. But yes, the top picture there, that's Dave's modular design, and it's just sweet the way it looks.
Okay, and we see some connecting pictures here. Is that the connectors you're talking about?
Yep.
Let's see if we can get it a bit bigger.
Once it's all assembled, you can slide that whole thing right out of the case, hang it up, nano coat it, slip it back together again, and you're done. You don't have to fight with it anymore.
I see. There's no solid connection to the coils in the wood part. It just all slides in, you mean?
Yep. And then once you slide it, once you Gans it and you slip it into the wood portions, and then you throw a couple of zip ties on there, then it drops into, he's got a really nice, just the right size little plastic container that they fit in perfectly, that he can mount a plug on the side of it, and it's all a nice, neat little modular unit. For a ghetto down in Peru, he's done amazing work down there.
So one of the things I see is these 90-degree bends. You know, you have to kind of be careful with the bends, and a bend like this. You know, if you can smooth those out, it'll
Okay.
help them.
Okay. Is it because of field 90-degree field interactions?
Well, remember you're talking plasma flow. So it's like water going down the stream and all of a sudden have to take a 90-degree bend. Plasma fields will tend to shoot, you know, continue on the direction that they're heading. So
Oh, okay. So a nice gentle bend would be preferable.
is much more preferable.
Okay.
And then
I'll bring.
we use 8 capacitors. I notice he has 4 here.
6 actually.
Oh, it's 2 behind the stick. Okay.
Yeah, there's 3 input, 3 output, 3 output.
Okay.
He's building these for 220 volt systems, so there's going to be a little bit of a difference there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the way he's got these designed. It's all modular, plug and play. Little kids can put these things together, and they're not confusing at all.
It's looking a lot better than the ones I saw before.
Oh yeah, yeah. We put a lot of time and brain power into getting this to work right. And these systems, the ones that we've tested, they came out absolutely beautiful, and they're working really nice.
I'm good.
But you notice how neat his coil connections are? Nothing's crossing itself, nothing's rubbing against each other. We had to work pretty hard to get that to work out just exactly right too.
Sometimes, John, you guys do videos. Did you happen to do a video of this process?
We will be, that'll be another, 3 videos down the road. We're doing a video series of basically, in a nutshell, everything you need to know to start from scratch and build a unit. We're doing it in 8 roughly hour to hour and a half long segments. That's his case, and the piece above it is the new style car coils, where they're 2 separate stacker separate stacker layers, and they're not connected together. This is a new design that's just come out of the Philippines for electric cars, and it eliminates any chance of a short circuit or fire or dead batteries or any of that stuff, and they appear to work really nice. Dave is going to be testing these, should be this week. He should be installing some of these this week.
So it's almost more
Smaller coils?
Say that again?
Are they the smaller coils?
No, they're roughly the same size,
Same size? Okay.
but they're completely separate. The negative is a gravitational connection. The magnetical of that coil doesn't go anywhere, and the positive is a gravitational connection, or a magnetical connection, sorry, and the gravitational doesn't go anywhere. They're not connected together. They're two separate coils, and you only connect one side of it. Vernie I had a chat with Vernie it was about 10 days, maybe 2 weeks ago. And he was testing these with radio controlled model cars and getting really good results. And they were just beginning to test them on some electric vehicles down there. But I don't see a problem with them not getting results with the electric cars.
Interesting.
Now, one of the things we're doing also, John, is what? Okay, so we have our capacitors on the bottom, and you have yours on the top.
Yeah, I've already talked
on that that long wire that comes back up to the capacitors or down to capacitors, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
We loop it back, or rather than going straight down, we loop it back over the coils that kind of capture all those fields coming around.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I discussed that with Dave. Not that type of a wiring system, but be aware that the new style reactor is going to be basically using his design, but a few additions to it, and he's going to need to be able to access it from the top. So he's also looking at a way to set the wiring up to put the capacitors on the bottom as well. But looping it through each of the layers, yeah, I can see that. I can see how that would loop it through, put a little bit of a spiral within.
Over the top, not through.
Yep. No, not through, but just like have it come underneath the top flat piece of wood. Say make a double spiral input output, go down to the next one, double spiral input output on underneath the wood, just above each coil. But he's got a problem with his center balls. He's using medical specimen containers, and they're quite tall. They're about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, something like that tall. He's having a hard time getting smaller containers than that. So we've got a few design constraints just because of the materials he can get his hands on.
You know, we use I think it's either 15 or 20 milliliter balls, little plastic balls with a hole in them, and then we close up the hole.
Yeah, you can fill your own paintballs. You can get little glass balls that are that size. There's all kinds of things you can get, but it's hard to get that stuff down in Peru. So
right off Amazon.
He's got to work with what he has.
Yeah. So
but
then,
he's got a nice system going. He roughly estimates that one man with the hand tools can turn out 20 units a day.
Yeah.
Oh, did we lose you, John?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
One of the things we do too is, okay, so on the Gans, what we've done is we've set up buckets of Gans water, and we call the bottom one coil 1, coil 2, and coil 3.
Yeah.
Each one of them has a different Gans water, starting with I'll say low to high. Here, I'll tell you the way we do it. Whether it's right or wrong, you know, we can argue that.
Well, I just want to understand. That's all, and that's contrary to what I understand. But go ahead, explain.
So what we do is we put CO2 water, CH3 water, CuO water, Gans water, along with amino acid for each one of them in coil number 1. In coil number 2, what we've decided to do is we use the Gans water of foods. So we have about 15 different food Gans that we're putting in here. In coil number 3, and the amino acid.
Yeah.
And by the way, the Gans ball that we put in here is the same as the coil itself. And then number 3, we put in the combination of what we did in number 1 plus number 2 into number 3. And that's the way we're loading ours up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you got a midweight Gans at the bottom, a light Gans in the center, and a heavy Gans on top. Yeah, I could see how that would create a nice flow through the entire system, a continuous flow through the entire system. I thought you were describing you're putting a light Gans on the bottom and a heavy Gans on top, which is going to be counter to the flow of the energy through the system. But no, I think you're all right. I think you're okay.
So we should be finishing up our the ones we're turning in for certification here this week, and we'll be moving things forward from there. We have one test already, but I think our tests were cheating a little bit in how we wired it up, so I'm not ready to.
Sorry, your sound faded there, John. Could you say that again? It was something important about the tests.
We're turning the units over to be certified here in the States this week.
Guys, I just got called into a meeting with Mr. Keshe. I got to run. Rick, you might want to find another co-host. Sorry, guys.
Thank you very much.
I'd love to stay in chat, but I just got a message here that I need to get to this other meeting.
Okay, very good, John. Take care. Okay, so Denny, can you be the co-host for now?
If you allow me to, I will.
Alrighty. So be it. Okay, well, geez. Let's carry on here.
Well, one other note, Rick, we're going to be taking over the USA Keshe Foundation website. So what we hope to do is start making that website more active and more information about what it is we're doing in Arizona. Plus, we're going to bring in other sites in the United States that are doing things and posting things that are important for all of us to be following.
Great, that sounds really good. Will that website be easily duplicated for other countries to use, or is that a whole separate system?
Well, it's the USA Keshe Foundation website. It kind of has all the links into the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to try to bring on board all the various activities that are happening in the United States into that. I noticed a lot of the other websites are starting to figure out how to integrate all the data from the main Keshe Foundation website into theirs, which is really the way to go.
Right, it's a bit of a challenge, all right.
It's a challenge.
When do you think your site will be available to the public?
Well, they can see it now, but it's kind of a shell. You know, you can go on Keshe, usa.keshefoundation.org. That's going to be the site, and then you'll start to see stuff, you know, that we're doing here in Arizona, how the process of certifications come along, when we start offering things for the distributors to sell.
Okay, that sounds good. Could you give the website again so that people, so that I can remember?
USA.keshefoundation.org.
Oh yes, okay, that makes sense.
It's Armin's old website.
Right.
You know, we're just going to.
Maybe I can just show it here briefly.
Are you going to put it in chat?
Sure, I can do that.
There's a comment also I like to make, not because it's correct. It's just that when Mr. Keshe was talking to Mark last week, he talked about putting CH3 in a frame, and there's several ways to make frames, and also I was looking at the one that John was just showing here with the container. You know, you could make a double container, and that would act like a frame itself. And then you could put your CH3 in that double container.
So you're saying like just have say a 5-gallon container around this one, and you'd have liquid in between or some sort of plasma
Yeah,
in between.
you would see he had a kind of a formula that he used. Mr. Keshe mentioned some NaOH. He mentioned the tops of the Coke bottle all ground up fine, and the liquid plasma of CH3. Now I don't know. Somebody might also want to put some actual Gans of CH3 in the bottom as well. So I'm just saying that there's room for experimentation here after Mr. Keshe explained to Mark about the value of the CH3 feeding your system.
We're actually doing some experiments now. We're not quite far enough along with the liquid plasma and the new designs. I didn't take pictures, but we're doing some interesting stuff with our mixtures. I'll have to wait till I have pictures to show.
Yeah, I'll just finish up with the website here from. I guess there's a number of different things. There's another. They're about their sessions in Peru and so on. Seems like they have quite an active group there, eh?
Yeah, so what we want to do is make our website more USA specific. So people like Denny and Mark and people that are in the United States, as there's things that are discovered and such, we want to be able to share that information on the site. So we'll have where it says community, we're going to try to get some of these other places that are active communities within the United States brought on board. Because I know there's a lot of active, people in the United States. We just want to make them more visible, and the information that comes out of them, available for everybody in the United States.
Great, sounds really good. I need to do a similar thing for the Canadian Keshe Foundation as well.
You could almost use this same template and change some words, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right, that's what I was thinking about. So I'll be in touch with about that. If you can give me some info on that.
Vince helped us with the whole thing, so
Okay.
You can help.
All right. Excellent. Any other news to report there, John?
The paint pens are coming along good. We're in the production of the paint pen, but we have to again get the certification. That's what we're waiting for.
That's in process, is it, for the paint pen as well?
That's
good.
Process.
Excellent. And
So what we're intending to do, and I think I'm not following all the stuff going on in the health teachings, but there's going to be many different variations of the paint pen. We showed the initial paint pen with a copper rod through the center. There's going to be other variations, like for example, a zinc rod coming through the center, one with a capillary tube, nano-coated capillary tube coming through the center, and then ones with different types of GANs associated with them for different types of ailments. So the paint pen has a long way to go in terms of understanding its full usefulness. And we're going to hopefully be able to get some of these into the hands of the doctors and people that are using them so that they can start to verify some of the
Mm-hmm.
results.
That's great. And of course, each new design would have to get certified individually, I guess, when you have a new element or a new part of the pen. Is that true
But
too? Or?
we're hoping not. We're hoping to get we're going to be careful with the language that we
Mm-hmm.
use.
More generalized kind of.
More generalized category, and we hope
Mm-hmm.
that if we get it for that, then we're able to make small modifications along the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And will some of this be CSA approval? Like, will it be for Canada and the U.S., or will it just be U.S. specific for your process, for your certification process?
Right now, we're trying to get USA, but I think once we get USA, the other dominoes will be much easier to tip over.
Yeah, that's the way I understand it. If once you've got USA approval, then that's like UL or CSA. Either one is pretty much a foot in the door in many ways. Well, good luck with all that. Sounds great.
Yeah. And there's actually we're doing some exciting things now. We're just, we, we're at the point where we're starting to turn a corner and have units made, and some of the testing that we're doing is coming to fruition. So the process is working. You know, the infrastructure that we built up, we're now able to start taking advantage of doing things that we wanted to be able to do.
Yes, indeed.
Uh,
Go ahead,
Rick,
Danny.
I'll just share a little quick highlight from something I did. You know, we have these dual wall cups.
Do you have
And
a video or something you want to show, or just want to describe it for now? Your microphone's off, Danny. It's somehow muted.
oh, here it is. I accidentally muted myself.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I guess you could give me a moment and I could go get it, but I can explain it real quick. The dual
Okay.
wall cups. Well, let me just, no, I won't do it. You got me confused here. The dual wall
Well,
cups, they screw together, and
yeah.
and some people are putting copper in between the two walls. Some
Mm-hmm.
are putting a copper plate, nano-coated copper plate. Some are putting a copper coil that they wrap around the inside container,
Mm-hmm.
and it sits in the in between the walls. And so I did a one with the coil, and I said, well, I got to nanocoat this copper, but first I went out and I took the coil off and I hit it with heat. I wanted to clean the coil off and everything, but then I wanted to nanocoat it, so I put it back inside the container and I put my cold caustic in the container, and I was going to set it in the sun, but then I says, you know, why don't I just boil some water and pour it in the cup to begin with, and boil some water and have a outside bath, and now I can heat my caustic up with the boiling water while it's sitting inside the dual walls, and nanocoat my my copper coil that way. And I'd also be nanocoating the inside of my glass. And so I was thinking that that's just a quick thought. That's something that it was worth an experiment, and it worked. So, and I was also when I use the cold caustic, I have a mixture of NaOH and the potassium OH, and some ground up uh, plastic top, and throw that into the So the cold caustic went in between the walls and the that's how it was. It was a quick way of nano coating. Plus, I also put it in the sun because right now we're having some good sunny weather. That's visual enough, isn't it? The way I described it.
You got away with words and worked us through it, I think. Thank you, Denny. Yeah, this idea of putting the whole works in the sun to bake, more or less, seems like a good idea on the surface.
Well, the boiling water was quick like the sun. I can get it up to a higher temperature
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, definitely.
And so the cold caustic went from cold to hot.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking you could use possibly either a lens or a mirror to create more heat with the sun as well. Maybe you wouldn't even need to use a stove that way in certain places of the world where you don't have electricity or a stove handy. You could actually use the power of the sun to heat up your caustic solution and do the nano coating that way.
There was a bonus on one cup that I have, or a glass. I had two glasses. I was doing the same with two glasses, and one glass, when I poured the hot water into the center of the container, the part that you drink out of, the cup plastic bulged out in 3 spots, and I said, well, that's a bonus because now I can put more Gans in between the wall. I can put more liquid plasma in between the walls, and it came out. The bulge came out in 3 spots, like 120 degrees apart. The other one, it didn't. It stayed normal, but that was a bonus that it bulged out. Somebody would think it might have been a mistake, but now I can put more liquid plasma in between the walls.
So you turned a
And actually go get them and show them, but it won't take a second. But I didn't think it was that important of a story, that there might be other people that have. If it bogs down here, I'll have them available.
Okay, well, I'll look into that later, I guess, if it is the case. Alrighty, what else have we got for show and tell here today? We're trying to get into the idea of free rotation. Is one thing that's come up recently. So in that sense, let me just start my video here briefly. Stop the screen share, and let me see, I have to put this, pin it on that, and pull that down, and there we go, got it. Okay, so I've got this drink glass here, sort of a margarita glass, I guess you might call it. And I'm thinking I've also got this globe, which is this is a glass. This glass is actually plastic, polycarbonate. You can get them in glass as well. This is a glass globe. You can get them in polycarbonate as well as glass. In this case, I have a glass globe and a polycarbonate glass. But anyway, the idea I want to put forth here is the idea of having a sphere which we can fill with different ganses or gases or whatever, and to put it into a liquid, in this case, which enables the sphere to freely move, basically, as long as it's not hitting the side, and with the proper liquid and so on, it basically just, it's freely moving and able to find its own position. So I'm thinking, well, maybe we can take advantage of that idea if if we did, for example, have one kind of Gans water here, or some other field interaction with the fields inside of this sphere, perhaps we can get the sphere to rotate, self-rotate on its own through the field interaction. Because there's so little resistance here, maybe it would contribute to that. Go ahead, Danny.
We were shown in our agricultural class on Monday, our teacher had some Gans that was spinning on its own in its container.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be great for this, because the Gans in the cup was spinning on its own, and so if it spun, the ball would spin.
Yes, right. Either
I don't know
way.
how he did it. I don't know how he
How
did
fast was it spinning? You're talking about a few RPMs or a few revolutions per hour, or is it more like in multiple revolutions per minute?
I'm going to guess that that it was spinning several times a minute. It had to be. It was spinning enough that you could see that it was spinning.
You could actually see it, slowly spinning, like. Mm-hmm.
Well, it didn't seem to be that slow, but it didn't seem to be that fast either. But so it was something that could very well be utilized for. It would probably be at least somewhere around 20 times a minute. It could be. I can't tell. You would have to.
That would be one revolution every 3 seconds, so it'd be about like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, something like that.
It could very well be, because it was difficult to ascertain just by looking at it. And he had it in a small container, and he had it in a large container doing that. And it's in the private class. It's in the private class. And another thing that came up is that making your Gans using your plasma fields. A fellow, I don't know if I'm supposed to use names here, was able to make a Gans with three coils 120 degrees apart, with his container in the inside of those three maggrav coils, and he would put his container and the material in the container, and so the outside fields would make the Gans without having the nano-coated copper inside the salt water. And so he set it up to where he had three maggrav coils feeding the plasma to the center. Do you want me to draw that?
Yes, I think you better, because I'm thinking how are they orientated and how are they set up.
Well,
maybe a picture.
I don't want to destroy your experiment here, because
No,
this was
no.
what you were talking about.
No, it is actually relevant, because where this leads to is if you can get one reactor to do something, then what if you set up 3 of them so they interact with each other, basically? And, to that effect, I've got this big pool thing that I've got. It's just a large plastic container that I can fill with water and have different spheres sitting and rotating. And I think once we learn how to create the fields so they interact, we can put them in that kind of situation where they're freely rotating and able to interact with each other. So if they repel apart, then you'd be able to see that, or if they're attracted together, they'll pull together and so on. So maybe we can make use of it that way.
I think our teacher that teaches the agricultural class to the private class. I think you know him. You might be able to talk to him and how he got that liquid gas to just spin in the container.
Is that a Chinese fellow, or is that?
No, he's an African fellow.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to just?
Yeah, let's show us something there, Danny. Okay, explain what you have there. I've lost your microphone, Denny.
Okay,
There we go.
this is just the double coil mag grav system, and the one goes vertical and one goes horizontal, and so of course you can set this up in different ways. You know, you can tip the coils and do whatever you're doing, but he just had them set in 120-degree difference, and I'm just drawing this roughly so that we get an idea and I can speed it up. And so he had, and I won't even go, but so he had it set up to where here he set his glass or a container. He had a these the gravity to magnetical as he connected them around, and he had a fan here that he used to, and plus I think he had his capacitors. But what he was, the whole point was he was using these fields. Let me put another color in here. Come on. I can't seem to get my stuff organized. He was using these fields and to now let me get another color. And he had his say he had zinc in here, and so he was using these fields to create his GANs. Let me use another color just for the fun of it, shall we? And so he created these GANs. See, if that was a copper one instead of zinc, you'd get your GANs this color. But you don't know exactly what kind of color you're going to get when you're using these fields. But he was getting a GANs from the fields of these particular coils. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. Now you're saying these coils were vertically mounted.
No, they were just laying, but he had them. The inside one was vertical, and the magnetical one was laying flat
Okay,
on the surface. And then he had the middle one vertical.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to draw 3D in its own effect, but so this gives and I don't think I'm allowed to name names, but it was very interesting how he came up with the idea. Which is available to all of us. He just was the one that did it, and he said his system was a real neglected system. He had it outside, and he didn't do much of anything with it. But he was wondering just exactly what GANs am I producing?
Did he
As
have?
I'm producing something. He said, but my system was really antiquated and wasn't really set up to actually give us a strong plasma field in here, but it was still doing it. And if it was done a little more professional than what he had done, he thinks that it would be a good way to make GANs. It was making it fairly slow, and then of course the value is the plasma, the liquid plasma, as well. So that I thought I would throw that out there so that give you something to experiment with too, and people that see this, it might be something that they would now understand and like to test.
Well, John Kammerer mentions in the chat to put a spiral coil up on the outside of the glass and hook it up in series. So right away, there's someone that was inspired through that, I suppose, to have that suggestion.
Well, yeah, if he wants to show what he's done, that'd be great too. If he wants to. Well, I'm just I threw a couple of these things out just for the curiosity of it. I did go and get my my cups during that process, during that time. It didn't take me but a second. They were just about 20 feet away from me. If you want to,
Do you want to show it? Go ahead.
if somebody was interested in it.
Well,
Okay, here
sure,
we
let's have a
go.
look.
Let me see if I can get my camera to see where I am. So here's these glasses. I usually
Just
don't
a
want to
second
do.
here. Okay, let me just get you going on my other screen. There we go. Okay.
These are these glasses that come apart. I usually don't like to take them apart without a glove on them, but they come apart, you see, and they screw together right here at that direction. And so I was able to put my liquid, I mean my cold caustic in there, and filled up my cold caustic so that I could cover it. See, this in here didn't bulge, and then I put hot water in here, and I put it in a bath. It was boiling water when I poured the water in there. It was boiling water. When I put this in the, actually I put a container around it. So when I poured my boiling water in there, it filled it up, and then filled up the container around it. So I had hot on the inside and I had hot on the outside. This one here, it bulged. I don't know if, yeah, you can see the bulges. And so that was a bonus because now I got a thicker wall. I got a beautiful thick wall that now fills me up. I can put more liquid plasma in there, so that gives a variation. And I thought that was a bonus. And and so if people want to do something like that, this is just an experiment.
Well, it's funny it came out with three-sided as well, because that's almost like the three triangulation of the three parts of the four spaceship reactor combination.
That's the base reactor.
Yeah.
One of them's a little smaller, so we have a gradient difference.
Well, maybe that's what it'll take to make things spin. Is that very shape might be the one that's successful with the same Gans. Maybe it would create some spin as opposed to just a straight round, a cylindrical glass. Typical glass is not doesn't have any bulges in it, doesn't have any asymmetrical parts. It's all symmetrical. So maybe we need something asymmetrical in order to create that rotation effect. Certainly Mr. Keshe has mentioned we need 2 or 3, specifically 3 kinds of Gans in order to create the gradient to create that spin. So it's all about the gradient.
Here's another thing that I've got here. This is a 10-gallon jug,
Mm-hmm.
and it's made of PET plastic, so it's that drinkable plastic. So when you have and it's actually a jug to hold water, and it's full of the base Gans. And this right here is Gans that I made with an electrolysis technique. So what I really wanted to do is I got too much Gans in here. I wanted to keep it down below the spigot. That way I could spin the Gan, it would settle, and I could just take the water out, my drinking water this way. Right now I have to ladle it out. And so these are great containers.
How much Gans did you put in the bottom there? How is that, like 2 or 3 inches of Gans on the bottom, or what?
Okay, so last week I explained I had about a 40-gallon.
Yes, okay. Now it's becoming clear, Denny, where you got all this
40-gallon tub.
Yeah.
And so it produced a lot of Gans. And so when I sucked it out, I didn't suck it all out. I wasn't even thinking about having it go above my spigot at the time.
Yeah.
But now I think that because the next time I put the Gans in the bottom and then the liquid plasma here, this is an easy container to stir. And so you can stir up the liquid plasma and the Gans with a stirring system, and and you could really spin it to vitalize it even more. And then if you have your Gans below the spigot, then you just pour the water out of the spigot but not touch the Gans. And so right now I have to ladle it out. And so that's fun. Okay, I'm done.
That's cool. Let me
I
show.
do have-
Now that you brought up the topic, let me show mine as well.
Okay, let me get off of this here. There we go.
Let me just get it up here with my second screen. I have to cancel and then pin it on the second screen.
You see what's so nice about it is that spigot's not down. It's down and it's up high enough that you can put your Gans down at the lower part, so it doesn't.
That's right. Yeah.
It goes below the spigot, and so when you take your liquid plasma out, you're just taking out straight liquid plasma. You're not grabbing any of the Gans.
Yep.
That's a beautiful, and that's PET too, can't you? You look at the bottom of it, and you look at the triangular notation. If it has a 1 in it of your plasma, it'll be coded right on the bottom. There'll be a triangle.
Well, I hate to say it, but this one doesn't have any coating on nothing, and it just says "Made in China."
Okay, well, mine was made.
It may not be strictly. I mean, it's made for drinking water. We presume that in this modern day and age they'll have it together, but maybe not. It could be, some whatever.
Look at that beautiful shape.
It is a beautiful shape. I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it and went, "Wow, that's perfect." Because now I'll see the way I'll use it is not just for drinking water, but I'll put the Gans in the bottom, like you're suggesting and showing, and then I've got enough water here that I can use this in the bathroom for filling the tub with 2 or 3 liters of the Gans water, and then just pour in the distilled water again, let it sit for a couple of days again until it's time for another hot Gans water bath.
And so you'll also have, with this particular container, you can sit a 2 liter, or what is I call them half gallons because I'm stuck on the gallon notation, right? A bottle right down the center of that. You could set it in there, and you would put your liquid Gans. I mean, you put your Gans in a container without having even any Gans in the water. You could just put a 2 gallon, or I mean a 2 quart. Yeah, well, that's the idea. You can put something in there that holds the plasma.
Multiple layers, absolutely.
That would do good for the spinning of the. Will that fit in there?
Oh yeah.
So now you have some.
Whoops! We have a spill. We have a spill.
Yeah.
Get the decontamination. Oh, it's already decontaminating water. It's a good thing to have a spill. It's a spill. All right, we had a spill.
And that'll be a good thing too when you're.
Imagine in the future when a spill is a good thing.
Well, when you're making that new reactor that Mr. Keshe is talking about, taking us through the steps of course, it's going to be an antique before you get it done.
Yes.
But it's still it's going to be a great plasma generator. The container that you have, and you fill up as many Ganses and.
Rick, you have too many toys.
I got way too much things. That's why I don't get enough done, because I'm always. I mean, if you got 3 things, there's only 6 different combinations. But if you got 4 things, it becomes 12 combinations. You got 5 things, it's actually multiplies again by whatever, it's 144 or something. Well, I've got like thousands of things in this room, and they all call out to me. They all want to play, and that's it can be very confusing.
So last Thursday, when Mr. Keshe was talking about the different type of reactor that you spin and you put the coils around it, this would be an excellent container to put your liquid plasma and your Gans in, because then when you took it out, you could just take it out of the spigot.
Yes, that's a good point. Absolutely. And it's got a very wide top, so you can put all kinds of, really cool things inside and have them sort of work. Get over there. There we go. So, I mean, who knows what strange combinations. I really like these cups, actually. They're perfect size for
Martini.
martinis, but you can put a ping pong ball inside, and it just happens to fit perfectly in that little cup shape there. And you think about it, this is exactly the right size for a coil to fit in. You could have a coil there so it holds it that way, but also a coil around this way, which is another way to hold it. And by chopping these parts off, these can actually be stacked. Making these parts shorter, you can actually stack these on top of each other, either which way. Sort of
That almost looks like it's just the right distance too.
it would be once that's chopped down. Yeah, I do believe. So you'd have your ping pong ball in the middle, and then the second layer and third layer, and so on. And and that'll fit inside of another. I mean, once this could actually be all sealed up as a sealed unit as well. If
Yeah, you could go
wanted
top to top on those too. You
Yeah.
go,
Yes, that's another interesting configuration.
and then you could spin both the balls.
Yeah, you could actually. It'd be
you'd have
quite
two
easy.
spinning
I was
balls.
thinking of spinning this whole thing, which could be relatively easy to do. I mean, as far as that goes, it could be cut off here and just chuck it into a drill press. You've got a spinning apparatus that's available in most
Is the
third world
stem hollow?
countries. Pardon me?
Is the stem hollow? on those?
No, the stem is solid. But what I was thinking of, I mean, today I was thinking I'd take some epoxy, put it in here, put the ball in so it's glued into the bottom here, solid, and then just drill through here all the way through into the ball, and put a little aseptic seal on here so that I can stick a needle through the whole way and put gases or Ganses inside the ball as I wish, and have the septa seal so you can pull the needle in and out and not have it disrupt the vacuum condition inside. And once that's the ball set up with its vacuum or gases or Ganses the way you specifically want, then the whole thing without this bottom part could be put into something that's able to spin it, and then having the correct environment around it at the same time that it's spinning could be quite interesting, actually.
You might even be able to turn that into a crystal reactor.
A crystal reactor.
Yeah.
How so? I mean crystal in terms of glass crystal
actually
or
use-
crystal radio?
No, actually a crystal reactor.
Okay, in terms of where would the crystal would be in the center here, or where would you put the crystal? How do you see crystal?
In the middle. Yeah, in the center.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on an idea that I got from somebody else. I ordered a couple of crystals from Hong Kong, and I'm gonna try to
Dump that
build crystal reactor on my own.
crystal.
There you go. Well, these are a little bit bigger. These are like 4 inches tall, and they've got a point on each end.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, you're
wow!
talking about natural.
There, now it fits quite well, actually. That way. I'll have
That's
a-
pretty neat.
a possible rotating
Where-
crystal
Where
there.
in the world did you get those? More of your dollar store stuff?
This is dollar store material. These actually they're available at the superstore and the dollar store now. I guess they're competing with each other. They used to be $4. They were marked $4.50. They had them on sale for less than $2 each now, and they're $1.25 at the dollar store. But there are gradients of the quality on these units too. The real ones that probably we should be using are polycarbonate, and they will be indestructible. These
Yeah.
are, I believe, are acrylic, and they've come a long way with acrylic, but acrylic is always, 10% of the indestructibility of polycarbonate. So polycarbonate we could just smash and drop and they will
Well,
not
wait a minute.
break.
You talking about polycarbonate plastic or polycarbonate glass?
Polycarbonate is plastic. Sometimes it's called
Well, there's
polycarbonate glass.
also, well, it may not be polycarbonate, but there's a type of glass that's almost indestructible too.
Yeah, it's polycarbonate as well. It doesn't scratch very easy and it's quite strong. I've got a tube here made out of polycarbonate, for example. This big long tube, and it's probably worth over $200 right now for that size of polycarbonate 6-inch, 1/8-inch wall. Paid $200 for an 8-foot length a few years ago, but the price has gone up quite a bit. You could get acrylic for probably a quarter of that price or something like that. So yeah, but the difference, the polycarbonate is much stronger than acrylic for any kind of rotating experiments. It's good to keep in mind that acrylic can shatter, whereas polycarbonate will not shatter. It'll stretch, or it'll tend to do something else other than shatter. Sorry, go ahead.
Excuse me, I'd like to backtrack you just back to your ping pong ball in your champagne glass.
Okay.
You got your ping pong ball. You sit it in your glass again.
Yep.
You that's good, but you down there, let it drop into the hole. Very good. You
Hole
won.
in one.
Yeah, okay, down there you would put an axle between that goes. You drill two
Through
holes.
there. Through
No,
here.
the other way.
Oh,
Cross
this way.
Yeah, you'd put a hole there
Okay.
and a hole on the other side,
Right.
and so that it's
So
like an
that's
axle,
it
and so
spins
then
this
you
way.
would spin. Then you could and you would make it so that it seals. So when you fill that up with, well, you don't have that, it won't leak. Then that way you could rotate the ball itself.
Now it rotates in the liquid by itself. So I'm thinking that might be a way to go.
What I'm saying is, though, if you put an axle there, then you would rotate
Deliberately spin
your
it.
ball. It would spin that direction, and so while you're spinning your the other part, you could be spinning this one too.
True, and it gives a different effect altogether. If this is spinning one way and this is spinning at the same time, it's two translational directions, you might say. And
Yes.
that could have special magical effects for sure.
Well, see,
Well,
that
yeah,
way.
it's a dual reaction.
Pardon me? So what?
I said, yeah, it's a dual reaction.
Dual reaction.
Yeah.
And since you can put something inside and spin inside the ball as well, if you put your axles,
That would give you a third reaction.
And so you can spin the ball on one end of the axle, and on the other end you could spin the thing that's inside. So you'd have two motors there. You take two motors because you want to spin the thing inside the ball, and you want to spin the ball itself. Then you're doing something similar to what Mr. Keshe talked about last Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'd be relatively easy to set up a little motor or way to spin the ball inside of here. And I've actually got, I'm trying to get set up again. I used to have this giant tube that I was showing you. I used to have it set up with a magnetic disc in the bottom here that was magnetically attracted to a rotating motor underneath here, so the disc could rotate and create a giant vortex inside here quite rapidly, actually instantly. And so with the giant vortex, I could actually put this inside and it will rotate on its own inside the vortex. So any creation, any sort of reactor I can create, whether it's something that looks like this or with that on top, or triple with coils, anything that's self-contained that I can create that can be in a liquid environment, I can put inside of this giant tube and create a vortex that'll spin at roughly up to 3,000 RPM or so. which is more than adequate of the
Yeah,
Magic
that would be
2500.
the liquid plasma you put in your tube would probably be a CH3 to get the feeding of the energy,
Right.
and then what you have in your ball can be a little bit heavier. Or, in other words, you test the pH. The acidic pH would give you the gravitational, and your more alkaline pH give you your magnetical.
How many times do you guys actually rinse your CH3 until you're satisfied that you've got all the sodium out of it?
Well, generally with the rinsing, it takes 3 or 4 times to get 99.9 or something like that % of the salt out, depending on your exact technique and so on. The CH3, it seems to tend to want to color the liquid, the plasma water above it quite readily, that I found at least. How about others? Have you found that you can get clear water above the CH3, or does it have that reddish sort of tinge?
I have clear water,
Mhm.
but I'm putting it in this PET container. I'm putting it in a container, and so it
With the
and
CH3 gams you're talking about?
yeah,
Okay.
that's
You can also use a magnet on the bottom. It helps the settling.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's how I test to see if I have CH3. If it's non-magnetical, I've got CH3. I'm not just having rust, and so I try to use a magnet. And if it doesn't stick to the magnet, then I have CH3. Well, that was my thinking. Whether I'm correct or not, that was my concept.
What were you saying, John, about that? Was that similar or the opposite? Are you using a magnet to pull down the CH3, or?
Yeah, to pull it down so it settles quicker. When you're washing it, sometimes CH3 wants to stay cloudy. So if you put a magnet underneath it, it'll pull it down so that you can.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab some rack.
Yeah,
Hang on a sec.
I've got some of those rare earth magnets. That would probably do it. Those what do you call them? Neodymium magnets. That should be strong enough to pull it down.
We use it for a magnet.
One of the reasons why I use these big jugs. Oh, go ahead. You guys keep going. I'll talk later.
What are we going on? I wanted to see if CH3 had any that I have here had any reaction with a magnet.
When you shake it up, Rick, shake it up and get it all cloudy, and then you're trying to get it to settle. And it's not going to settle necessarily real fast, but it'll settle faster with a magnet.
Right.
I got some of those those flat round neodymium magnets. Those things are super strong.
Yeah, these are neodymium, and this is a stack of them, actually.
Oh, is it?
And
Yeah,
if you look at my ceiling, there's neodymium magnets are all over the ceiling, is covered with neodymium magnets. That's where I hang them, so they don't mate with each other unexpectedly. Like this one.
I found the easy way to get them apart is just take a piece of steel behind two of them, and then you can break them apart easily. Like a knife blade or something like that. Then they'll just slide right off each other.
Right, yeah. Well, it takes a while for this CH3 to settle out, so I'm not sure.
So what we do, Rick, is just set a magnet on the bottom of it, and it just helps it to settle down.
Right
quicker. I don't know. That's just what we do.
Yeah, I think he's talking about a flat magnet, Rick. Something you
I
can
was
just
trying to see if it would. Yeah, I've got other flat ones I can set it on, but it'll take a while to settle out, and I don't have the comparison beside it with the. We'd have to do the two tests, one with the magnet.
I've got some CH3 that I've made that I've let it dry out. I haven't washed it yet, and I just wondered how many times I really need to, rinse it out with the, clean water.
Well,
The distilled water.
there's this saying in chemistry called, I was just mentioning this to a friend, quant suff, quantity sufficient, which means if you're doing like a titration experiment and you go drip, 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 and you're putting in a acid into a base or something, and you've got a liquid that as soon as it reaches a certain pH, it changes color. So you go drip, 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 and you watch, and suddenly it changes color. Well, that amount you put in was quant suff, quantity sufficient to cause the reaction. Then you might notate it was 28.3 milliliters or whatever. But you don't know what that quantity sufficient is until you're in the middle of the experiment and actually doing it and putting it in bit by bit to see how much is the right quantity. So it's an interesting concept there. I think a lot of these Keshe experiments are based on quant suff, quantity sufficient, and we don't really know until we're playing around with things, and maybe it'll take a couple of these with a certain kind of configuration, and all of a sudden, bingo, quantity sufficient to cause the interaction that you were looking for, the field interaction or whatever experiment that you're working on.
Is he going to have another lesson on Thursday, or is he going to be out of country? I know a while back he mentioned he was going to go to Japan or someplace.
No, we'll have the Knowledge Seekers workshop on Thursday as usual, except for missing the one class 2 weeks ago there. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I get some ants in my pants here.
Rick. All right. What do your ants say?
I want to go back to my video just for a moment.
Okay.
You see that big jug again? The whole reason I bought these big jugs, I bought 5 of them, was that I would make my Gans in it. And so when I made my CH3 Gans, these things have ripples around it, this container, and on all the ripples, the red Gans collect, and as it goes down, and because I wanted that effect, so that was a real bonus, because then when I took my Gans and my water out of the jug, I was thinking, oh boy, now I've got my Gans reactor. I mean, I have my Gans that holds the plasma inside this container. I'm using PET, so I'm really excited about the plastic. And so I made one with CO2. I made one with the copper oxide. I made one with the CH3, and the fourth one I used the combination. And I was going to set them around in a star formation, and then I would be sitting in the middle to get the health effects of it. And that was the purpose of buying these. That was my postulation, that this, when Mr. Keshe says that the container holds plasma as well. Now it holds the plasma field. So when I emptied out the container with its salt water and the Gans, I would still have a plasma field that then would radiate from these particular containers, and the containers were large enough. And so that's one of the experiments that I'm doing. And so I thought I'd throw that out as well. I think I've got rid of all my ants now.
Well, you still leave us with the question, have you sat in the middle of this configuration? Have you tried that yet? Or
I sat between the iron and the CH3 and the CO2, and my copper oxide is still out brewing, and
Okay.
also my combination. I hadn't made my combination yet, and so
So what happened to your ants when you sat between them?
Well, I'm not as sensitive as other people are. I'm just, I think that it probably works. I see that this one right here is primarily a zinc, and I have it here because uh, uh, Chris is autistic, and sometimes he gets a little violent, and so I'm mellowing him out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the consequences, I'm getting mellow too. So I got to be careful. I don't want to be too mellow. That that's okay. So anyhow,
Well, it's interesting.
it has some value because uh, it holds it has a plasma field. I just don't know how to uh, to calculate the 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 fields, how far they go out, and how they interact. But that was
Mm-hmm.
the principle, and
Well,
probably a person would want to have at least one, two, three, four, one below him, three around the sides, and one at the top. And the other thing was I was talking about using strands of hippie beads and creating those. That's why I have a larger containers that when I made my Gans as well, I put some containers in the bottom that I wanted to hold the liquid plasma, some smaller ones too, and just so that I would have those that I could put around as a form of a health reactor. So and now this next month I'm also working on my hippie bead container. So when I make my Gans, it's full of strands of hippie beads so that I can hold them up. Of course, I'm back to also building my the reactor that Mr. Keshe talked about. And if anybody wants to kick me off here and say, "Shut up, Denny," do it, because I can show the concept of my reactor if you want. Once I get talking, I can't stop. You wind me up, it's like that's that.
Denny, I'm not sure what a hippie bead is, but one that's supposed to be great health benefits is shungite beads. They're you can get them from Russia.
Yes,
You can find them online.
yes, I've got a source. That's the kind I was going to use, and some of them are already stringed because they're made in curtains. And
Interesting.
and and so yeah, when a person carries this farther, they could use a strand of nano-coated copper and bead the put the beads over the nano-coated copper if they wanted to, or of course you're using a plastic thread to string the beads is is a way to do it. And so I was just going to make a curtain in a circle, and then I'd go inside of it and sing its praises. So I'm still on a roll now, Rick. You either have to kick me off and ask someone else to come on, because I'm ready to click on the schematic of my reactor that.
Okay, but we can go there perhaps. But before we do, I just when I'm looking at your device here, your container, and it's such a big, it's what'd you say, 10-gallon container?
No, this one's only 5
gallons.
You can get a 3-gallon one too, but the 3-gallon one was $1 more, so I bought the 5-gallon one.
Okay, but what occurs to me, and from what I know, with could you leave your picture on there just for a sec till so we can?
Okay, I'll turn my volume off.
Where did you get those, Danny?
I just went to big plastic jug on Google, and Amazon had them.
So what occurs to me is that
I had PET in it.
For example, if I was to suddenly burn my hand or my arm or something, and what do you do? What do you do like right now? I would love to have this available, and I would dunk my entire arm right into it immediately, as soon as that burn happened, and keep
That
it
makes
in there
sense to
for
me.
some period of time, like maybe 10 or 15 minutes or so, and then do repeated dunkings after that. And both immediately cool down the wound and start immediate healing effects, and also give a covering for the wound that's very protective. And like I have a skin condition that can break out in incredibly itchy, painful blisters and so on. And if I have an outbreak, I just give a light spray of the Gans water, of the CO2, and it's so cooling and so refreshing, and so it takes away the itching and irritation and so on. It's incredible the way it works. And I was blown away because I've tried every other herbal remedy and different oils and different things that are supposed to be good for the skin and supposed to be soothing for the skin, and I found that the CO2 Gans water is the very best. It's you can't get any better.
Coconut oil is good, Rick.
Coconut oil is good, but it's limited in a way. It's cooling and it's refreshing, and it is one of the only oils I know that I can put on my skin and not have a adverse effect. So to me, the combination of the coconut oil plus the CO2 Gans or the zinc oxide Gans, which I think they're both very useful, is I think an amazing combination. I think it's very, very useful.
Yeah, you already got it. You already got a container you can do that with. You showed us earlier.
Which container?
The one with the big lid.
The big lid, yes.
Yeah.
I use a coconut oil soap. When I shower, I don't
Yep.
have the same kind of skin problem you do, but it's a pure soap. There's nothing in it that will harm you. It's
Yeah, I have to use a pure soaps
what do
as
they
well.
call it? There's no glycerin, there's no alcohol, there's no all the ingredients that they have, and like deodorants and things like
Right.
that are bad for you.
Hypoallergenic is one word for it.
Yeah, that's one.
Yep. Yeah, I have to use soaps like that as well, or my skin will break out.
Your container has an advantage over mine in a certain way, because yours is the walls are smooth all the way around. They're circular. Mine has a handle on it.
Oh yes,
And
yes. I wondered
so-
about the handle thing in many of these containers, and that's another reason. Yeah, it's true. I like this one.
But
It has
the purpose of the handle doesn't is it's not going to contradict what I wanted to do with when I wanted to have a plasma field coming off of it, and it doesn't really hurt the I can still get a vortex in it. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Well-
that has no bearing on the field energy that you want from it for health.
Probably not, but I think it would be harder to get a vortex in the physicality of the water itself in that structure. That's why they make blenders with walls like that with a dent in them, so that they don't create a perfect vortex. They tend to mix things up more. So this would be a good mixing chamber with a vortex in the middle. But I'm looking more for separating out the layers in a vortex.
Yeah,
That's what I'd like to see.
yours has the advantage to that. So where did you get yours?
You mean this container here?
Yeah, because
I got this
it
at
has
the
specific advantages.
This is at the Canadian Superstore, it's called, which is, big box supermarket, and they got them in recently in the various miscellaneous section in the kitchen area, and so I imagine that this is available, very similar design. Must be available in several other places now that it's showed up there. Okay. What else about that?
I can back off and let other people talk.
Well, let's see what other people have to say here, because we're getting on already here. So What else do we have? Someone chomping at the bit and would like to say something.
Well, yeah. Hello, everybody. I have a question about something Mr. Keshe was talking about on the last workshop.
That's Mario. Eh? Hi, Mario.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Mr. Keshe put on the board. He said the copper oxide. I think it was CO2, and the CH3 gives the physicality, and he totaled it up to a weight of about. I think he said it was 54 to 60. And then he said, if you put the zinc oxide and CO2 and the CH3 or whatever, slightly adding the, I guess.
Mario, may I interrupt you for a minute? Do you have the ability to do a white screen, or is it possible from where you're set now?
No, I don't think so. I have no idea.
Did
Rick,
can you
I
throw
could probably do
throw a
that.
white screen up and write what he's saying?
Yeah, we need to be able to follow this. So yeah, just a second.
I think I can explain it pretty easy. There was the weight of the Ganses that you use to give the physicality was 56 to 60, and then there was the weight for the emotional part, which was 60 to 64 when you add the zinc. And then he said, if you go to the next level up, you're reaching the field strength that's equal to the soul. He didn't say what it was, but I was wondering if anybody has any ideas what the next element would be to add. Does that make sense?
No, because I can't remember what you said, and I was trying to set up the whiteboard here. But let's. Oh, there! I finally found my things.
There were 3 Ganses that are for the physicality, and
Okay.
then 3 Ganses that are for the emotional, and then and they go up in field strength, atomic weight or whatever. So you have, I think it was copper. What's the physicality would be what? Copper, CO2, and CH3. That would be the blood, right? And then the zinc and the CO2 and the CH3 and maybe what, calcium or something would be the emotional part. And then and it goes up like 56 to 60 is the physical, 60 to 64 is the emotional, and then presumably 64 to 68 would be the soul's strength. And that's the one we want to feel. We want to feed.
I think phosphorus was in there too.
Is it phosphorus? Yeah, I was wondering. I was looking on the atomic weights. There's sulfur and phosphorus would be the next one. So I think probably sulfur, but you could get it with phosphorus. I can get sulfur by taking an egg yolk and putting from an egg yolk. Could I? If I make a CO2 Gans and I put an egg yolk on top of the container, I should be able to get CO2 with sulfur in it. I heard somebody say that. Anybody know?
You should be able to buy sulfur. As far as I know, you can buy it in the store.
Well, I still got to get a Gans out of it. Oh, I could put the Gans on top. Yeah, I'm in China, and it's difficult to find things. They probably have it right there, but I wouldn't know because it's all in Chinese. So.
Well, definitely there's sulfur compounds in eggs, but I have no idea if you'd be able to pull out specifically sulfur from an egg, in that manner.
I don't think it would be very pure, Rick.
In Asia, sulfur is quite often used for skin conditions, so you should be able to buy it relatively easily in China.
It's probably also used to control funguses and so on trees.
Okay.
Yeah, and to keep snakes out of the house, I believe.
Okay. So, I mean,
A lot of drugs contain sulfur too.
What?
That's right. The pharmaceutical type drugs have sulfurs in them. But is that where we go with that? I had a different idea on that, where it was going. Like he mentioned this next step or whatever, but I always go back to the soul being related to the hydrogen. I always go back to the core of the reactor. The principal fields are usually based on the hydrogen. Monatomic hydrogen is always talked about as being sort of the holy grail, that you can create everything else from the hydrogen, but you cannot go the other way around necessarily. You cannot create all materials from the heavier materials. It's easier to create them, proton by proton with the hydrogen than it is to break down uranium into its components and other radioactive isotopes and whatnot, with all this splitting and breaking apart idea. So
yeah, George just said it is hydrogen.
Pardon me?
George just said on the screen that it is hydrogen.
Oh, okay. Could you talk about that a bit, George? Maybe you can speak and say something about that, because I was just taking a bit of. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a hydrogen because he mentioned it times and makes sense. By must be monatomic hydrogen, he explained how to get it from carbon stick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now,
yeah, I think it should be in the middle of the reactor. So the coolest one that he said that must be empty, but it must be empty. But hydrogen needs to be inside, so it can't be empty. Hydrogen.
right. And if you look at it, that's the way the universe works. If you want to spread yourself through the entire universe, as if you were God, for example, and you wanted to spread yourself, or you wanted to be present through the whole universe, there's only one element that's present in the whole universe, and in fact, I think it's something like 75% of the weight of the universe is made of atomic hydrogen.
Yeah.
Think about it. We think, and atomic hydrogen doesn't even exist on planet Earth. I mean, except when we create it accidentally through or deliberately through experiments and so on. But it automatically goes into the H2 hydrogen molecule on planet Earth. But out in the universe, and the rest of the universe, 75% of the matter of the universe is atomic hydrogen. It's some huge amount like that. So, and let me just finish it. Also, every cubic meter of the universe, so far as we've been able to tell, has hydrogen, at least one or a few hydrogen atoms in it. And Mr. Keshe said every hydrogen atom, the field of that atom will extend out a cubic meter or more in a vacuum condition. So all of the hydrogen atoms of the entire universe are in communication with each other through their plasmatic fields. Every single one. They're all in communication with each other. And that, I think, makes it the winner for the soul-based element in my estimation. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Mario.
That's okay. Well, I have a different take on that. But first, the hydrogen is already in all of this in all of the fields required. So you always have to have the hydrogen. The CH3 has to be there. So there was just an extra weight. I think it's probably the sulfur. So I think that's the answer to that. But thank you for that. But there's something else. Mr. Keshe, the periodic table of elements is inside out, backwards. And to me, there are no atoms. They're the interaction of the fields. The hydrogen is out at the outer Coulomb barrier of every structure. It's at the outside. It's the lowest mass. It's the lowest octave out. So it being at the center of the universe is because the flower of life creates that structure. That entirety is what you would call a hydrogen atom. And then it goes out from there. So everything is a hydrogen atom when you get right down to it, a monoatomic, because they're monoatomic means they're in nanolayers. So each fields they're interacting, they're creating the crystalline structure is nanolayers. And it's the outer Coulomb barrier should be the hydrogen. So you have one hydrogen, and then the Earth, in a way, would be a hydrogen atom. Our solar system would be a hydrogen atom. And I think Mr. Keshe was saying, like you get all the other elements when you go in from the outside to the higher levels field strengths. So you start with the hydrogen, that means you've got the entire structure of the universe because it's from the inside out, the heavier, lighter. So if you don't have hydrogen, you're missing some elements.
Mm-hmm. And also, it's interesting, like you mentioned going to sulfur and so on, and we mentioned going to the next heavier element in this scale of the physical, emotion, and soul and so on. But if you think about it in terms of going from one element to the next in the periodic table, it's just the addition of a proton that changes one element into the next element. And that proton is the hydrogen. The hydrogen is what makes an element change into the, it's the difference between lead and gold, basically, is the hydrogen. So, in a way, it's the answer about how to get to the next level. But it may not be the hydrogen itself is the answer in terms of what we're going for this physical, emotional, and soul. Maybe the next one is simply the hydrogen added to the emotional weight, let's say, and the next that addition of that additional proton changes it to the next level, the next dimension.
Rick, one of the things that Marin said in one of his speeches was that I'm sure I heard him say that carbon was the basis of all life throughout all universes. I'm almost positive he said that, and of course hydrogen is a big part of it. But virtually everything contains carbon. We're breathing it. As we speak.
Your atomic hydrogen is basically your building block. It's an atomic hydrogen consists of a proton, a neutron, and an electron. And so that's why it's your basic building block. And last week during this presentation, when he was talking to Mark and Armin, he mentioned that on your CO2 kit, you can get atomic hydrogen, monatomic hydrogen, and helium. What you have to learn how to do is collect them. And so
and that's a good point. That's something I was thinking about today in terms of let me just show my video here briefly. Okay, I mean, in terms of buoyancy, we think about stuff that floats. Oops, just dumped a bit of water. I mean, you got a ping pong ball, for example. It's floating in this water. If we push it down, it immediately pops up. I mean, it really pops up. And if you had it over a long column and had this at the bottom, let it go, it would radically quickly move up. The same as a helium balloon in our atmosphere will tend to go up. And a hydrogen balloon will go up even faster. Okay, so what about monoatomic hydrogen? It'll want to, rise. It'll have ability to instantly want to get away from the Earth's gravity, to go up, gone. So how can we actually trap or keep such such a monatomic hydrogen itself, let alone in a plasma where it's ionized and so on, where it's even tinier and easier for it to fly away and so on. So, I mean, for example, in this reactor, we have this huge, wide open mouth. So obviously, any monatomic hydrogen is going to go gone. Hello, right through the roof, right through everything, because it's so tiny of a molecule or atom rather, that it will go through virtually everything. So we have to find some way to trap against the buoyancy of our atmosphere, to trap the monatomic hydrogen, and preferably as a plasmatic gas rather than just the gas monatomic hydrogen. But I'm wondering if people have some input on that. Has anybody considered that or thought about it? Will glass, is that enough to enclose monoatomic hydrogen, or plastic?
The only thought that I could come up with on something like that would be you'd have to have something that you could create a force field to contain it, because you wouldn't be able to contain it in a tank, because at some point the tank would just burst.
No, I think Mr. Keshe already explained it. The only thing that can contain hydrogen is CH3. I think that's correct, that you have to nanocoat. I think Armin said you just coat the container with CH3, and that will contain. That's the only way, he said. I think that was correct. I'm pretty sure it was CH3.
There would certainly be a limitation to it, wouldn't there?
May I ask you a question?
Mr. Ketch said he used that all the time. That's what he did to collect the atomic hydrogen, was to use containers. And there was a diagram where he showed the container and the Coke bottle, or two Coke bottles, and one on top with tubes collecting them. And he said he used I'm pretty sure it was CH3, which is hydrogen, right? That will create the nanolayers that's small enough to not let the hydrogen pass through. So you collect your Gans in the bottom of the one container with tubes going up into another container that's sealed and nano-coated with the CH3. Is the only way to contain the fields. I think that was correct, but you guys saw the same video, so.
I'm going to refer you back to last week. Last week when Mr. Keshe talked about collecting the atomic hydrogen off of your CO2 kit. He said you have three gases that lift: the atomic hydrogen, the monatomic, and the helium. And the atomic hydrogen was heavier than the monatomic, and the helium was the lightest. So you had to build a baffle system to collect the three, and of course the one you're after is the atomic hydrogen. And I think, Rick, you put up a picture of the Coke bottle kit last week.
Oh, right.
Well, that was, and I was talking to Mark and Armin said, well, how do you collect that atomic hydrogen? And that's when Keshe went into the explanation last week.
Yeah, that would be the force field to contain it.
Hi, Denny.
Eventually, we'll probably, as plasma scientists, be getting into more powerful plasmas and different types of plasmas and so on. And so when we think about some plasmas, such as a positron plasma, what is that? Well, that's a positively charged electron, and called an anti-electron sometimes. And supposedly when matter and antimatter collide, it causes an explosion. They both annihilate or something. But scientists have actually been able to separate positrons, the positive electrons, into clouds, and able to stabilize it and carry it inside a container. and it can last for hours. This plasma of positrons can be actually contained in a container. And yes, you do have to have certain fields are involved, and a certain shape of the fields in the container enables the particles to continue circulating without hitting the walls of the container. And that's always the number one rule for containing a plasma of any kind, is don't let the plasma hit the walls of the container, or don't let it hit the physicality. There can't be any physical interaction, or it annihilates the plasma. So you mentioned the CH3. Well, that would probably be a reflector kind of coating for the monatomic hydrogen. I'm assuming, or some sort of thing where if the hydrogen hits it, maybe another hydrogen just gets bumped off as and absorbs one, gives one off, or some sort of mechanism like that.
I think, Mr. Keshe, basically that all you're doing is creating gaps that are small enough that it doesn't allow the hydrogen to pass through. Just simple as that. It's, if you use any other material, but once you've got it nano coated with the CH3, I'm pretty sure that's correct. But I'll look at the video again. That all it's doing is just because everything's got gaps. It's just creating gaps that are small enough that that nothing can get out.
Right, like a plastic like this, for example, if we were to turn it into a vacuum chamber, of course it would collapse, it's too thin for that, but if it was a vacuum chamber, it wouldn't work that well because the plastic itself is actually porous and will allow certain gases to pass through. You keep trying to vacuum it out, but the gas molecules will stay inside, so it can't be completely evacuated. That's why they use more stainless steel, and other types of glass works better than plastic to block most molecules and so on. So helium is one of the gases that's the smallest, actually, and it will tend to pass through many materials, such as helium balloons. They go flat after a day or so because the helium gradually leaks out. But you can get a special coating. In fact, for the helium balloons, they have a helium balloon coating. We investigated this, I think it was in the private teaching recently, or was it in
well,
the
it was in last week. It was in last
workshop
teaching how to.
Right.
So that's what he said. He used a certain glue. And
Yeah,
Mario, did you
and
get
I
your
looked it
question
up on the
answered?
internet. It was the stuff for the helium balloons, and they coat the balloons with it, and it prevents the helium from leaking out of them. So that's another way that perhaps we can collect that monoatomic hydrogen.
Oh, that's what he used it to seal his CO2 kit.
Yeah, he used it as a sealant because it was because they used it for the helium balloons and stuff. But I think you have to coat it with the CH3. That's the actual container. You have to seal the container somehow. The only way to seal that, you have to close it up somehow, is to use that glue. I think that was right, yeah?
Well, it'd be good to find out a little more data about the exactitude of what he said about. I remember what you were saying. I remember him saying something about that, but I'm not clear on exactly the context.
What you guys are talking about is high float. It's called HIFLOAT, high float.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And
yeah.
there's a kit that you can buy. It's a $15, $20 kit that will pump the stuff.
Right.
you can actually you can actually pump it into something to seal it.
Right.
Like what he mentioned, the Coke bottles, the twin Coke bottles and stuff like that.
Yeah, might be good to use as a sealer.
I looked up that high float too, and I wasn't quite convinced that was the glue. The high float goes inside the balloon to hold the helium in, but I didn't see it as a glue substance. I saw it as they sprayed it into the balloon, and that allowed the helium to stay in the balloon longer, and that was high float. like you said.
And what was the glue used for, Denny? For what purpose?
He was sealing his the top onto his CO2 kit so that as it was producing the atomic hydrogen, he let it off, I think, in a nano-coated tube and put it in baffles. And when the gases came off of the CO2 kit, there was three primary gases. One was the atomic hydrogens, and the other was the monoatomic, and the other one was helium. And now I'd have to refer to last week's lesson that you gave us last week, or what do you call your class, your reactor class, and I was trying to figure out what answer Mario's question, and I can't remember what that was about, Mario, so I can't answer it. I'd have to go back and listen to that particular Thursday presentation to get your answer. Did you get your answer already, though, Mario?
I mean, my main question was how do I get a dynamic reactor that feeds the soul, that goes the next level up? I mean, to me, the physicality is the outer layers. The emotional is the little inside your thalamus. Mr. Keshe said we all have, and the soul is the next level up in strength, going inwards, right, from the outside in. So, but it was 54 to 60 weight, 60 to 64 weight. And instead, the next level up is the soul. So, I was just wondering.
Here's one of the odd things that Mr. Keshe also presents. It's not odd, but it's one that he mentioned your tub of liquid plasma and the Gans in the bottom of it. With your abilities, you're able to stick your hands in that particular liquid plasma and create your own free plasma from your own emotion and your soul. So, and not only that, you could stick your hands in the liquid plasma and create the field forces of the materials you wanted. And I don't know if you recall that aspect of the presentation last week but he said some will be able to do it fairly rapidly, and others will be frustrated with the idea of even doing it. And so when you start to go, see, I mention this because you may very well be the one that can put his hands in and do it. And so it would be worth an experimentation for you to do something like that, and for all of us.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's something, I don't remember whether it was a few years ago, I read about this study with rats in London. They put a rat through a maze and they timed it and they watched it, how it got lost. Then they ran a second rat through, and the second rat went through faster and didn't seem to make any of the mistakes the first rat did. By the time 3 or 4, or however many rats went through, the fifth rat, whatever, went right through the maze, didn't make any mistakes. 6th rat, right through the maze. It seemed that once one rat figured out how to make it through that maze, every rat figured out how to do that. And then they repeated that in Australia. They guys set up a lab with the same maze, and the first rat went right through the maze, and every other rat. So once one rat figures out how to make it through that maze, every rat on the planet knows how to make it through that maze. The thing is, it only applies to a rat who's trying to make it through that maze. So even if you're trying to make it through if you're a rat trying to make it through a sewer pipe, that information might be there, but it only applies if you happen to get caught and put into that same maze by those same scientists, and boom, you go through it, right? But every experience is shared by everybody, but it only applies when everybody tries to do the same thing. So like what you were saying, if I can do it, then you all know how to do it. You all need to try it. That's the thing, you know? And But
I'm definitely going to try it. I might be the rat that does it.
That
But
could have been.
I have to try it just like I had to try to figure out the field plasma in the big jug. I have to do it because that's part of this learning experience.
yeah,
That could have been rat telepathy.
well, it's not telepathy. Because that implies a human understanding of distance. Tele. There's no tele. The rats are connected. They're all connected. They're already connected. Just like if I lose a connection on this internet, I'm not connected anymore. What does that mean? That when we are talking, we are connected. Yeah. So the rats are not telepathic. They are connected. And so are we. And it took more than one rat to figure out how to get through the maze. Right? So, Denny, you might only get part way. And then I will get another part way. And then Rick will try it. And by the time one of us figures out how to do it, then as soon as anybody else tries to apply that, everybody on the planet will already know how to do it. But until they go, it takes an awareness of it. Like if you're,
True.
if you don't know to make a Gans and to try it, then you're not trying it. As soon as you try it, you find you immediately could do it instinctively. But if you don't try, then. But it's going to take a lot of human rats, to figure out how to do this. All that needs to be done. That's for sure. So it takes all of us.
Mm-hmm. But you're right, as far as especially the initial impetus, you might say, of a new concept, like just playing around with all this, stuff. Certain concepts come up and they get introduced into the world. It's a new concept of different arrangements, different ways of taking the same old stuff that's been around for thousands of years and reconverting it into a new configuration that changes everything, essentially. And it can be exemplified just through really, dollar store type technology, but it puts the idea out into the world. And then suddenly, like you say, others, run with it. Suddenly, thousands of people around the world are drinking martinis with crystals in them because it changes their structure, and then suddenly they're for world peace where they're into world wars before or something like that. It's so bizarre the way the interactions do form, and they spread out into the world. There's examples, for example, of inventors that invent something. One of the classics is the radio was invented in one part of the world and in another part of the world simultaneously. Same with flying devices, aircraft, and I think the hot air balloons were also that way. The idea just is in the air, you might say, and then people pull it out. They start manifesting it as physicality stuff, and then they think, oh, I'm the inventor of this and no one else has ever thought of this before. And meanwhile, there's this guy on the other side of the world who's saying exactly the same thing. I am the inventor of this and nobody else has done it, and this is my invention. And they both hear about
Rick,
each other's and say, I did it first. No, I did it first. But it's just that it was there. Pardon me?
Yeah, two rats going through the same maze on opposite sides of the world.
Well, Rick, just a thought on what you just said. People are telepathic. Some of us are, to an extent, anyway. Yes. So that might account for inventions on one side of the world and the other, and so forth. And
sure,
I think in the future people are going to become more telepathic.
Well, that's right. That's the problem of Earthlings, is that we're not telepathic, and that's our whole problem. Is we think that we're separate individuals that have separate thoughts and separate feelings and separate everything, and that's what some have called the greatest illusion of humans on the planet Earth, is that we're not connected, and that the truth is that we are connected, and that we have the capability of being telepathic and empathetic and everything other attributes. but that it's been latent and not taken,
Remote
you know,
viewing,
not used.
clairvoyant, all kinds of things.
Yes, absolutely.
People
That's
don't think they can do it because they've never tried it.
well, the thing is, what I've learned or what I believe is that this is the natural way for other beings in the universe. It's natural to be telepathic, and if you're not, there's something wrong with you. See, this is a different sort of concept. In fact, Earthlings will not be allowed in space until we become telepathic. Because if you're not telepathic, how can you know where everything else and all the other entities of your strength are and your position and so on? If you think you're not connected with all these others, then that would make you have decisions that are too personally orientated and not taking into account the environment of others in the environment of space, for example, where pulling the wrong move could have major repercussions for other life forms and so on. That's why humans won't be allowed to go into space until we become less violent and so on.
Yeah,
It's only because of our isolation that we become violent. Once we realize there's others like us on that opposite side that we're fighting supposedly, and that they have families, they have feelings, they are struggling for their own survival in the same way that we are, then things happen like in World War I, where the two opposing sides would get together at Christmas and celebrate with each other, and then go back to war after that, and so on, or at least have there's a respect that happens when people have that empathy for each other, and part of that is through the telepathy. You can't lie. That's the whole thing about telepathy. What's the sense of lying? You just look like an idiot if you were lying within a telepathic society. Everyone would look at you and go, would laugh at whatever you said, because they would know that everyone would know it would not be true, let's say, and you would be basically in your own false reality. Everyone would see that and so on. So it's not possible to have wars which are based on illusions and manipulation of people's concepts and so on. It wouldn't be able to be done, at least not as readily, in a telepathic society, because everyone would know what was up, and people that were in touch with themselves would feel that empathy and not want to engage in certain activities that were put forward by those that are working on that realm, where they're influencing subtly and in the subconscious realm, where it's not conscious to the person who's receiving those hints and persuasions, let's say. So
I'm gonna add another side to this, Rick. We go to outer space, and we're trying not to hurt anything. We're trying not to hurt any creature of any nature, of anything. And here on Earth, we go outside. It's almost impossible not to hurt something.
That's
we
right.
Every breath
we take, we're killing, basically killing different bacteria and viruses. It's a constant battleground inside of our own bodies. It's a constant battleground with the air, the water, the physicalities, and so on. Not to mention other humans and so on that we bump into.
You go for a drive. It's pretty difficult not to find a bug to splat on your window.
There's some big ones too, and you think, oh my God, I've really crushed a big life form. Or what if a bird hits the grill of your car and so on? Yeah, lots of things like that.
Can I take that to another level? I have something. Okay, I wasn't going to mention this, so I've been thinking about it a long time. But the biblical story, and every religion, every culture has this: the eating of the forbidden fruit. In the Bible, it tells the story of that fruit of the knowledge of the good and evil. And once man, our ancestor, ate of that forbidden fruit, It was barred from the tree of life and would surely die. Okay? But in our inside out, upside down, backwards understanding, and the religious leaders perverting it, the way it's always been taught is when Adam ate the apple, it wasn't an apple, whatever, ate that fruit, he gained the knowledge of good and evil. But if you think, well, that's upside down, inside out, and backwards, what it really means is he lost the knowledge of good and evil. Why? Because he ate. The eating act is an act of violence, whether it's an apple or a person is no different. And then when what are you doing? You're going to eat it and nano-coat it in your stomach, dissecting its remains layer by layer to extract its life energy. That's a desecration of life. In the Hebrew religion, there's a day of atonement, a day of fasting. You atone for your sins. How? Fasting. But in our culture, we celebrate life with death. It's your birthday. Let's have a birthday party.
Let's eat even more than usual. Yes, Christmas celebrations and Easter and Thanksgiving.
All this includes death and desecration.
And we give thanks at Thanksgiving by eating life forms and, big turkeys and so on.
That's right. And what about when every soldier lays down his arms and picks up a pain pad or pain cannon or whatever? What are we going to do? We're going to celebrate peace on earth by going out and killing as many creatures as we can, eating them, desecrating their remains. See, what I think happened is we lost the knowledge of good and evil. We're justifying evil by eating. The very act of eating is an act of violence and an act of desecration.
Well, I would advance another theory on that, which is the act of eating can also be an act of transformation and an act of elevating the souls of those beings that we eat when it's done in a proper manner. And that we've lost the proper manner of doing that over the millennia, let's say. But that it still can be done and is done by people that have that knowledge. And that,
but Mystic is pretty clear about this. When you go out in space, those creatures are not your food. He's very clear on that. I think that eating put us to sleep. Like, I think that the soul has created the emotional part of the body. The emotional part is that little tiny dot in the center of your brain that's generating the spaceship, literally, the secondary fields, and we passed out at the helm. We got secondary layers, all of our body except the lungs, and not even all, part of the function of the heart is directly run by the emotional part. The rest is on automatic pilot, subroutines, operating that's why I was having such a hard time trying to understand how do I control me from the inside out. I find I can't do it, but I don't think it works that way. I think I'm asleep at the wheel. That story of a man dreams every night he's a butterfly, only to find out at the end of his life that he's actually a butterfly, been dreaming he's a man. I think that's what's happened. We are literally flying in space now. We don't need to make a spaceship. We need to learn about ganses and plasmas to teach us the reality. But there's something else too. Magnets interact with other magnets because of the same field strength. But they also interact with other metals that are almost the same. But when those metals come in contact, when they're not in contact with a magnet, they don't act like a magnet. When they do come in contact with a magnet, they change their behavior. The metals start, the more the interaction is, the more the metals become acting like magnets. And it's the metal itself changing its behavior. You can prove it because if you rub a magnet against a metal for a while, you take that magnet away, that metal will still act like a magnet for a while. And then it'll revert back to its original field position. Mr. Keshe said years ago, right now I have reactors, I could change the behavior of every person on this planet. CH3, CO2, copper oxide, zinc oxide, those are the fields of a human body. Mr. Keshe said, I could change the behavior of every person on this planet, but then as soon as I turn the reactor off, you would all revert back to your old previous behavior. I think the purpose of the Ganses, the MagRav units, is to change the behavior of the man, to magnetize the man, to wake him up out of his stupor and get him back in control of the spaceship. And one of the things is not eating, learning to not need to, the physicality. Jackie said, Mr. Keshe said, if you can stop eating, live off the reactor's fields, or however you're absorbing the energy, within 6 months, you won't have a digestive tract. Your body will be, I think Jackie was saying, like I was saying, I want to learn how to fly. And he was saying, yeah, he's learning how to fly. And I asked him, he said he's eating a little bit. I said, why? He said, because he wanted to maintain his altitude, so to speak. Yeah? He was saying like that. I mean, for me, I want to fly. But I think the presence of these gases, once the planet has enough plasma fields that everybody is in the fields, then all of our behavior will change. And it has to be the whole planet. It has to be everybody. And then the violence stops. I think we got a long way to go because we still are going to celebrate the end of war with feasts. That's death and desecration, I think. I mean, I don't see how else to explain it. I call us cannibal planet. I think
Baron has also said that we're going to celebrate the end of leaders, you know, kings, queens, princesses, and all the rest of that crap. You know, presidents, prime ministers, they'll all be gone.
Well, yes, but okay, look, I was 6 months ago. Well, yeah, but not with a feast. With a feast from fields, okay, but not from killing another animal or apple, and we don't need it. And I was making Magrav coils sitting on my floor 4 or 5 months ago, and an ant walked across the floor, and without thinking, I reached over and swatted it and killed it. And I thought, why did I do that? I didn't even think about it. And I started going, I'm a killer. I'm a killer. Any ant walks by, I own that floor. That floor belongs to me. Any ant, he's not doing anything. He didn't hurt me. He would walk and whatever, you know, why did I kill it? And I stopped. I've been having a very interesting relationship with insects.
Well, this is what happens. I've run into the same thing, you know, spiders, for example. I don't like spiders around the house, and if I find one, I'll tend to either kill it or more lately I tried to just put them out. I'll capture it and put it out and put it into its environment and just exclude it from my environment. And we've been getting along real fine since then. I don't have as much trouble with the spiders. They don't bother me anywhere near as much as they used to. I just put them out instead of killing them. I think killing them makes the thing that we don't like come back even stronger, basically. So we try to kill them, they'll come back stronger. It's like the same thing happens with mosquitoes, strangely enough. If you're out in the bush and, you know, working or something, and there's a lot of mosquitoes around, and you stop walking, and suddenly they're all around your face, in your ear. And if you start swatting them, they start coming in real hordes, and they just don't stop. And it's, you know, swat, 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 and people go literally insane at times from all that.
Stop breathing. Stop breathing. They're queuing in on your carbon dioxide.
Well, that's part of it, yeah. And the carbon dioxide is not just the breathing; it's excluded through our skin and everything else. And the more we stress about the situation, the more our body temperature goes up. They're attracted to that, and all these key signals of a stressed out animal ready to be feasted on is exuded by us. So if one learns to be calm under that circumstance and just either allow it to happen without having to react, or just simply move away without sudden movements and so on.
I tried. Can I I have some. I hear about mosquitoes right after that, and then I've tried it many times so far again. When I was getting bitten by mosquitoes, or they were trying to bite me, I thought, at first I realized I give up. And I said, I won't kill you. Take the blood. Just take it. Get it over with. Let me go to sleep. Really, literally, that's what's happening, right? So I just lay there. And, you know, as soon as I said, take that blood, take it, not one of them landed on me, not one of them bit. I think I literally transferred the fields to them. Before, I didn't want them to take it. I was trying to stop them. You want my blood?
Right.
I don't want to give it to you. So they got to stand up behind me and stab me in the back, don't they? As
Right.
soon as I said, take it, they didn't. And I had that happen 3 or 4 or multiple times. And I don't get bitten by mosquitoes now. There's sand fleas, and I'm starting to try it again. I got bitten by something. It was not a mosquitoes, and you know, but
well, that applies. That same principle applies to all of the attractions and repulsions of life, you might say. So we get attracted to things and we get repelled by things, and it doesn't matter well whether we are attracted or repelled. The fact that we are either attracted or repelled means that we are not in the objective impartial state. We are in a state of identification when we are attracted or repelled by things. So in the case of the mosquito, we might be identified with, oh, it could cause me pain, or it's annoying, or whatever reason. We're identified with something to do with that situation. Therefore, we are not objectively, impartially observing that situation. We are involved in it. And so attractions or repulsions can be good indicators that way. And for sure, any repulsions that we have, they end up coming up in our life somehow. If you're scared of snakes, then you'll see snakes everywhere. They'll just show up. So
yeah, the intentions. But the intentions are more important than anything, as far as I could tell. I didn't want them to have my blood, and they were going to stab me and get it. As soon as I said, take the blood, they didn't have to stab me to get it. I gave it to them. And I was wondering, how strong am I? Can I feed people that way?
I'm sorry, say that again. Say that last part again.
Can I do that if I see starving people? Can I give them the fields? I'm not strong enough now, but I can't even feed myself with the reactors. But can I get to the point to where I don't need to give them a bottle of water? I can give them the fields they need. If it will work for mosquitoes, why wouldn't it work for people?
It does. It does. Think about mothers who, with their offspring, and their offspring is crying, wah, wah, I'm hungry, blah, blah. Well, the mother will find a way to, oh, it's okay. Listen, we'll get you some food in a few minutes, and it'll be okay. Just calm down. It's just not, nope. Okay, thanks, mommy. And it's that's how the fields interact with produce a real change in the other field without any physicality actually transforming there or transacting there. For example, it wouldn't necessarily mean that kid would have to get an ice cream or whatever food that they thought they needed at the time to alleviate their hunger. It may be that just the field interaction of the mom is enough to reassure them that they feel like they've gotten some nutrition or some sort of sustenance from that interaction, and enough to, at least to maintain them for the next while until they find the physicality food in that case.
I have a few things to say too, but I'm wondering if there's somebody that has done something that would like to share too. I'm interested in how Mark progressed on his project. If he had something
we have
going
to
on
wind things up fairly soon here. So yeah, it'd be good to see what others have been doing actually in the last bit here. Mark, did you have something you wanted to? I saw your video on earlier. Is there something you wanted to show there? Are you still with us?
He might be working.
Oh, he just turned his mic on there.
Bored him to death. I think I talked too long and bored him to death.
No, you did good. I'm very grateful for what you said.
Well, you know, one thing I found, you know, he was talking about mosquitoes. One thing I found years ago was you have a little garlic in your diet. Most mosquitoes won't bite you if you eat garlic once in a while. They'll just stay the hell away from you. I've had them come buzzing right at me, you know, like 3 inches away, and then just they're gone.
Yep. And most of your friends probably will too with the garlic habit.
No, I mean
3 inches. Oh, that's it. I'm away.
I'm talking about like up in the woods in Oregon,
Yeah.
you know, up in the
Yeah.
mountains
Yeah.
where there's a lot of mosquitoes.
Sure.
They won't come near you.
Yep. You can drink citronella too. Just kidding. Just kidding. But citronella works on the skin to repel mosquitoes. It produces
it?
that plasmatic field that they don't like to penetrate, let's say.
Yeah, you can make a liquid plasma of citronella.
Yeah, that would be interesting to experiment with for those that are out in the bush and see if that actually works effectively.
One of the things that I have in my thoughts is Mr. Keshe is getting us to make the new reactors, the spinning reactors, is where he's trying to get us ready so we can actually sense the liquid plasma, so we can experience, I mean, not the liquid plasma, but the free plasma, so we can actually experience it so that we know what it is. And once we know what it is, when we make it ourselves with our own emotion and our own physicality and soul, and we've made the physical plasma, I mean, the free plasma, we recognize what it is. We may be doing it already, but we don't recognize it. Once we start making these new reactors and getting to experience the free plasma, then we have the experience encoded in us. So when we make it ourselves with our own intent, then we recognize we've made it. That's one
that's
of
a good
the
point.
things that I'm thinking about. Of course, other people are way ahead of me in this area, and I don't mind them being ahead. It's just that I'd love them to be ahead, so they can do it and show it.
Okay, which brings us back to Mark again, who had his video and audio open, but we kind of overran him again here once again.
How did your experiment go, Mark? You were working on a reactor. How did it go this week?
Probably it's too late for me to present everything, Denny. It's 4 a.m. here, and I'm tired, and I had a ton, and everybody else had a lot to do and show and everything, and I guess it just wasn't my time today.
Okay, well, we can certainly put you in next week toward the first part of the show.
But you are progressing then, and you're happy with it?
Well, I did what you told me. I went and got the gouging rods, and I learned how to get the copper off the gouging rods. I just had one question for you. How much power did you put between the two? Well, you didn't take the copper off, so.
Yes, I took copper off too during the week, and I also nano-coated the copper on it as well, so that I could get ready for experiments. I didn't have enough power supplies, and so I was waiting to get some funds, and I found different ways to make power supplies where I didn't have to buy expensive ones. I use an old wall wart power supply, and I found little units that I could control the voltage and the amperage with, and so I can get one. I can make a power supply for under $20 that way. And
how much power do you think you were sending between the two carbon rods?
I was trying to keep it under down less than 100 milliamps, somewhere around 100 milliamps, and I'm going to try to get it lower the voltage. I try to keep it down to. And I don't know what's really taking place there. It's like I don't recognize the free plasma when I see it. I really don't know what's taking place. I don't know what I'm getting. and I really don't know what I'm getting off of it. Now I used two carbon rods this last week, and I was right around 100 to 120 milliamps, and the voltage was right around almost 3 volts. And when I saw
let's just see, because this is really confusing me a whole lot about all this power. You know, you keep saying milliamps, right?
yes,
Your power conversion is, when you look at your reading, you're reading out a milliamp.
yes.
See,
It's not it's a portion of an amp. It's a
Yeah,
Because when I look at my
1,000
reader,
milliamps is an amp, Mark.
1,000 milliamps is an amp. Yeah, that's really hot, though, isn't it?
no, it's not hot. It's a low current.
Isn't 1 amp hot? 1 milliamp is 1,000 milliamps, which is 1 amp. Well,
I've got a ham radio power supply that's 5 kV and it puts out 1 amp. That's enough to fry you. That'll electrocute you within a few milliseconds.
well, my power supply goes up to 5 amps. I mean, right, exactly, because it has a breaker in it. Right. Right. Because you don't have a ground, you don't have a earth ground to it. Okay. Well, this is the hardest part for me to regulate this, because I'm writing everything down. I have everything that I'm doing as far as milliamps and my changing of the. I have a lot of stuff, too much stuff that I could ever present right now. But the hard part is on my voltmeter, my hand voltmeter. Like if you looked at it, it said a battery is 1.5, or another battery. The other battery is a 9-volt battery. Correct? When you turn your gauge to it. So in those two ranges, if you go back to the millivolts, you have 200 millivolts. When you go to the millivolts, is that like 6, like I have 6 1-gallon containers. I'm trying to keep the millivolts at 0.060. Is that 600 millivolts?
Where's the decimal?
It's 0.60. And that's volt. Yes.
0.60 would be 600 millivolts.
That's what I'm hoping, that I thought it was right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Does that make sense?
Anything that comes after the point, you're going to be.
You just add a 0 after that point, right?
If you had 0.06, then it would be 60 millivolts. It wouldn't be 600 millivolts.
No, I said it was 0.60 volts.
That's 6. Yeah.
Okay. Is that a good range to keep our, because like I said, right.
Armin was saying about using a volt or a volt and a half or so, and that a lot of people are using higher voltages and they're getting odd results and wondering why they're getting odd results. Like my Gans is all gray. How come I use 8 volts and 200 2 amps or something, and my Gans is all gray? I don't understand it. Well, it's because the voltage or amperage is too high, and you end up as Armin was explaining earlier today, it rips off the bigger chunks basically off your base material, and you get different combinations.
Yeah, you can see it. If you go hot with it, it'll come off the zincs. Because I did all pure metals, and when you go to zinc, and you try to even go up to like a 1.5 volt battery, man, that just the 2 zinc plates just cook.
Yeah, and they'll disintegrate fairly quickly as well.
Yeah, you don't want that. You want
it depends. It depends on what you're
he called it rapid release.
Yeah, it depends what you're trying to create. I think like you got to realize the first experiments with the creating the CO2 Gans was you don't put any power in. In fact, you drain the power. That was the whole idea. It was to drain off the power to create the nanomaterials and to create the Gans and that kind of thing. It wasn't about adding. Then people started adding electricity to it and so on, and then some of the knowledge seekers started doing that more, and now we have what we have today with many different kinds of materials. Some are Gans, some aren't, and some are just different kinds of chemical combinations that end up looking like some sort of precipitate in there. And we don't really know whether it's Gans or not, and it's hard to test properly and so on. So,
well, we probably know it's a Gans, but we don't know how many oxygen molecules are tied to the carbon. There could be 3 oxygen molecules tied to the carbon. We don't know those kind of things unless we do a chemical analysis of those particular. And the other thing that you might be wanting, okay, so you might want to turn up the voltage because you're after the monoatomic hydrogen. We don't know if that's, so we're testing. I may not be after a good CO2 Gans. I may be after the hydrogens are coming off, and so that's why you take a different approach from some of these things. You're guessing and then you're testing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're all pioneers anyway.
Yeah.
But I had a lot more stuff. I went to another step anyway with the Gans, but just to kind of let people know, I'll show you next week because it's late now, but it would take me about 10 minutes, not even 5-10 minutes. I had my camera set up when I had the big picture, but I built what was left of the small version of what I had last week, and I think you're going to be quite interested into seeing what I finished. That was what I presented last week was just the top portion of what what I wanted to build. This week I worked really hard on the bottom portion of it, but it's too late now.
Yeah, we're getting on to almost 3.5 hours here now. So
well, you could give us a taste.
Yeah, well, he's definitely teasing us with this one.
Yeah,
but,
you could give us a taste. You could flip on the video, and you don't have to explain it. You can give us a taste if you want.
I don't have a video. I could just show you what I was doing, but it's just I can explain it a little bit because remember what. Well, Denny, I know you know exactly how I built that with the arms extending and the plates in the middle and everything. But now with that unit, with the leg, I built the bottom portion of it where the humans live. And it's my first design in the old days was a 12-person design based on some of the things that Denny told us about, as in a position as humans would sit in the pod to be able to be fed, to be able to be sheltered, to be able to have the fields around us in order to be able to shelter us, feed us, comfort us, and then have a dwelling. That's what I worked on this week.
Well, let's reserve that for next week, because that sounds like a whole topic in itself, a whole reason to discuss for quite some time, I think. So
Yeah,
I have. We do have to end things here, because we're getting into the private teaching, and some people might want to be there for that, and so on here. So I see Stephen Hamper has his video up there as well. I guess he had some things he wanted to show. Is that true, Stephen? Can we wait for next week on that as well? See, your audio's open there. I'm not hearing you though. It's not coming through yet. You hear some fuzziness, but no audio. Okay, well, we'll reserve that for next week then. Maybe we'll have something to show there.
Namaste all.
Okay, I think you heard that. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap things up for now, and thanks once again for everybody for participating and showing up and whatnot, and hopefully it's still broadcasting on the live stream properly. I haven't checked in there recently. I think it still is, and now we'll end the live stream broadcast. So again, thanks everybody for attending. It's a lot of fun, and some interesting ideas came up. Appreciate all the input. All right, we're going to end the live stream.